open up by Friday, they're going to have to cut air traffic, the number of flights, by about 10% at dozens of major airports in the country. Listen to Secretary Duffy on this.
I anticipate there'll be additional disruptions. There'll be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible.
So that's Secretary Duffy there. What does that mean, cutting 10% of flights? You're looking at like 3,500 to 4,000 flights a day, right? There may be thousands of travelers affected by this. It could potentially be a very painful slowdown. We don't know where specifically, but it could affect travelers who are already dealing with more delays, more cancellations because of staffing shortages, which, by the way, we cannot definitively pin on the government shutdown. They only really started, though, when the lights went off in D.C. Remember how the last shutdown ended some years ago, back in 2019? Kind of like this, right? With a threatened slowdown at airports being the straw that broke the camel's back, and got Congress to get together, get its act together, get the government back open. We've got team coverage tonight. Aaron Gilchrist is in a food bank force in Columbia, South Carolina, where they are feeling the pain from this stretched-on shutdown. More on that in a second, but I want to bring in Mel Zanona, who's with us, our Capitol Hill correspondent, and this is interesting here because this is clearly the Trump administration kind of going, hey, we've got this lever we can crank to try to put some pressure on Democrats, and they are doing that because if there's something that people will really feel, right, beyond food aid, for example, SNAP, which there's been a court order on, beyond, the WIC program, beyond some of these other pieces, it's people showing up at the airport not being able to go to their flights.
Yeah, this could be really painful and really seismic. We don't have a list yet of which airports are going to be affected, but it will be a 10% reduction in scheduled flights at 40 high-traffic airports. So chances are, if you're traveling,
probably one near you.
Yes, it's probably going to be somewhere, and you're going to be impacted by this. Let's take a little bit of a listen to what else transportation officials have to say.
It's going to be based on the locations, the 40 locations that we feel the pressure.
We're going to ask the airlines to work with us collaboratively to reduce their schedules pro rata through the day. So we're going to look for a radical reduction across these 40 markets over the next 48 hours.
And Duffy went on to say the reason why they're doing this is to try to alleviate some of the pressure on air traffic controllers who, as a reminder, missed their first paycheck, are on track to miss a second paycheck, some of them having to pick up second jobs, go to food banks just to make ends meet. That's on top of the 50,000 TSA workers who are also working without pay right now. So there's so much stress right now on the air travel system. They're trying to alleviate that pressure. What that means is the passengers are going to start feeling it even more.
And by the way, those air traffic controllers already dealing with staffing issues that date back years.
Yes.
So I know this is only like a 90-minute-old situation here. Like, this is all very hot and fresh. Is it shaking anything loose on the Hill? Are you getting any indication of that? Or, like, not at all? Or not yet?
They were already in some bipartisan talks over the last few days between the two parties about trying to find an off-ramp. Those conversations are still ongoing, and there were some Republicans today expressing some optimism, from Susan Collins, she's an appropriator, to John Thune, the GOP leader. So those are some encouraging signs there, but they don't have a breakthrough just yet. The contours of these deals take a while to come together. They're talking about reopening the government alongside a potential vote to extend Obamacare subsidies. They need to figure out what the end date of the new stopgap spending bill is going to be, and then not to mention they still got to bring the House back in order to pass the link that gives Trump's desk. The likelihood of this happening by Friday, which is that deadline that Duffy said, very slim at this point.
Because in terms of like the congressional timeline, Congress's clock, Friday is like 20 seconds away. Like, it's super soon in the context of all the things that would have to get done to reopen the government by that.
That's exactly right. And the Senate has been leaving on Thursdays and taking these 3-day weekends.
Flying, by the way.
So yes, they might be experiencing these air travel delays themselves. So maybe it will be something that finally lights a fire underneath Congress. We've started to see that over the last few days, but they just haven't got there yet.
Real quick before I let you go, feels to me like one of the big tells, if there is progress, is going to be Speaker Johnson bringing back members of the House. Do you think that's going to happen Monday, Tuesday?
He's not going to do that. He will give them 48 hours notice until the Senate does something first.
Alrighty, Mel Zanona, plenty for you to watch. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let me bring in Aaron Gilchrist, who's live at that food bank in South Carolina. Because Aaron, as this shutdown is now, by the way, the other big headline, it's now the longest ever. It's costing a ton of money. It's stretched on. People are feeling the pinch and feeling the pain, and so are food banks like the one you're at.
Yeah, and a lot of that is driven by uncertainty about when the government is going to do something, and whether that's going to be enough that's going to be helpful for folks. You look at some of these refrigerators that have been stocked ahead of tomorrow's rush at this food bank. Harvest Hope here in Columbia, South Carolina. You can see some of the items that they have here ready for the rush that they do expect will happen tomorrow, as it has happened every day for the last several days, and more and more people have been showing up on each of those days. We had some video from earlier today where you can see there was a long line of cars for more than 7 hours, people waiting to come in here to get those emergency food disbursements from this particular food banks. Across the state of South Carolina, there's been a 30 to 40% increase in demand for emergency food over the last week alone. I want you to hear part of a conversation I had with a woman who was here today, waited in line for hours, and was able to get some food that she hopes is going to sustain her at least for a few weeks. Listen. And let me ask you first, just what brings you here today?
Food. We broke, and we need food.
Yeah.
And our food stamps said, I don't know what's gonna happen next month.
Yeah.
Probably we're gonna be out of luck. We're worried right now of family usually coming and having Thanksgiving with us or Christmas. We probably ain't gonna be able to feed us, let alone them.
And now the food banks are worried that they won't be able to sustain offering food to the population that is growing. They worry about Thanksgiving coming and people needing to get into this food bank more frequently, potentially, because of the holidays that are rolling up here and not knowing when they may get more help from the federal government. There's no help coming from the state of South Carolina for the food banks here, Hallie. There have been donations to the tune of about $245,000 to a fund that's receiving donations specifically for food banks, to help food banks. That is not enough money. There is a $105 million SNAP program that happens in South Carolina, and so $240,000 is not going to generate enough food to really help people for an entire month, Allie.
Aaron Gilchrist, live first there in Columbia. Glad to have you there, Aaron. Thank you for that report. Appreciate that. In the world of politics.